In the early summer of 1965, on a modest airfield tucked away in the British countryside, history unfolded not with the clamor of conflict, but with the harmonious roar of jet engines. 7 aircraft, sleek and crimson, rose into the sky in unison, trailing the colors of a nation behind them. Their movement was not erratic but choreographed, an aerial ballet of breathtaking precision. That moment marked the first official public display of the Red Arrows, and with it the world met, the A-Team of 7. These 7 men were not mere pilots. They were chosen from among the finest of the Royal Air Force, each one a master of their craft, selected for their exceptional skill, temperament, and capacity for self-discipline. They flew the Folland Gnat, a compact, agile fighter jet that demanded total control and split-second decision-making, and yet in their hands it seemed to move with the grace of instinct itself. It was through these aircraft that the A-Team etched a new standard into the sky, one that would become synonymous with British aviation excellence for generations to come. But this wasn't simply about aerial acrobatics or mechanical performance. The emergence of the Red Arrows in 1965 must be understood in context: historical, cultural, and psychological. Britain was in the midst of transformation. The post-war years had given way to a modernizing society, grappling with identity, technology, and a rapidly shifting global order. Amid this change, the Red Arrows stood as a symbol of continuity and discipline, an assertion that tradition and excellence could still cut through uncertainty with clarity and pride. The A-Team of 7 represented the ideal of voluntary hierarchy, a concept deeply embedded in both military structure and human psychology. Each pilot had the capacity for individual action, and yet they subordinated that autonomy to the demands of the group, of the mission, of the greater good. Their unity was not the product of enforced conformity, but of a shared commitment to purpose. That's the difference between tyranny and order. One compels submission, the other invites it in the service of something meaningful. The team's training regimen was punishing. Hours upon hours of flight rehearsal, debriefing, critique, and adjustment were required just to shave milliseconds off their formation timing. But in that crucible of repetition and refinement, something remarkable emerged. Trust. Trust between men, between machine and mind, and between the Red Arrows and the public they represented. Watching them fly wasn't merely entertaining, it was moving. It communicated something archetypal. Here were individuals operating in harmony, pushing themselves to the very edge of possibility, yet doing so in perfect alignment with one another. Their first public display was more than a spectacle. It was a demonstration of the human capacity for discipline, coordination, and the pursuit of excellence. It told a story that chaos can be shaped into beauty, that risk can be met with courage, and that meaning can be found in mastery. The Folland Gnats, though smaller and more modest than the aircraft that would follow in later decades, were perfect symbols for this inaugural team. Quick, responsive, and deceptively powerful, they mirrored the spirit of their pilots, sharp, efficient, and utterly committed to precision. Their red livery was not merely for visibility, it was symbolic. It drew attention, but it also carried with it the weight of sacrifice, heritage, and national honor. These pilots were ambassadors of a kind, using flight as a language conveying values that could not easily be spoken, but could be felt by every eye turned to the sky. We trace their lineage through the earlier RAF display teams, the Black Arrows, the Blue Diamonds, and others, each one contributing something essential to the DNA of what the Red Arrows would become. And we look ahead at how the legacy of the A-Team continues to shape the identity and aspiration of those who follow in their vapor trails. In the end, the A-Team of 7 were not merely 7 men in 7 machines. They were a convergence point of history, of character, of national spirit. And their first public display was not just the beginning of an airshow tradition. It was the launching point of a symbol, a message written in smoke across the sky, that even in a fragmented and uncertain world, harmony, discipline, and courage still soar.
I'm going to carry out an air briefing after lunch before the second sortie. All I want to do now is to run through what we're doing on formation aerobatic display as distinct from an air briefing for the pilot. All the rolls are done from left to right, which puts us in a nice position to come up here and down on the loop line. Now the loop line is not at 90 degrees to the crowd, but is at 45 degrees to the crowd either side. This then requires the crowd to look this way and about 50 degrees up to see a loop, to look that way to see a roll, and this way to see a loop coming from the other loop line. In this way, we don't want the spectators to have to do that, because that's bad showmanship. So everything should be there.
Out on the tarmac, photographers and newsreel cameramen crowd in.
Now, should it be
The team worries about the weather, while the reporters wait to be impressed. Visibility is not good enough for a full show. No loops and rolls through that cloud. So Flight Lieutenant Jones leads his team through a series of low-level maneuvers and formation passes, giving the photographers a chance to get some pictures. Then the team breaks and lands, hoping for better weather after lunch.
I'm afraid that show that you have just seen was our bad weather show, not the show as briefed to you by Flight Lieutenant Jones this morning.
Okay, now. Okay, now.
May I present the red arrows? The team will now do a roll in rhombus formation. Lieutenant Jones is now leading the team into a roll in arrow formation from your left to right. enjoyed the show.
1 right, 24, green, smoking.
1 right, land, surface wind cam.
And left side wind through there.
Clear land.
2 right, green, smoke.
3 and turn.
4 left, smoking, green.
4 land and turn.
2 right, green, smoking.
Right, clear land.
3 left, green, smoke.
Clear land.
3 to 5, all green, smoke.
3 to land, surface wind cam.